Also tonight, that is breaking, a damning new report from the Washington swamp. The Biden administration is now planning to develop what is a welcome untold number of Palestinian refugees into the U.S. to be resettled permanently in a neighborhood near you. Now, keep in mind, no neighboring country in the Middle East is willing to host any Palestinian refugees. Now, one question, why is that? Keep in mind, the people of Gaza have long been subject to anti-Jewish and anti-American indoctrination, starting at a very, very early age. Now, just look at these disgusting anti-Semitic cartoons that children in Gaza are watching. They target young children, they indoctrinate them, they brainwash them. And just take a look at this. This is what they watch on TV growing up. On October 7th, scores of Gaza residents celebrated, even participated in the brutal terrorist attack against Israel. And on September 11th, 2001, you might recall crowds of Palestinians taking to the streets to celebrate the horrific attack. And now Biden wants to import this potential hate and vitriol to a city or town near you. How do you possibly ever in any way vet people that are from Gaza and whether or not they've been radicalized or not? Your feckless president would be once again putting our country at risk, just like the 10 million unvetted Joe Biden illegal immigrants, many from our top geopolitical foes, that being China and Russia and Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan. What, all for a few votes from a radical base? Look at your screen tonight. This is live at Columbia University in New York City, where Joe Biden's Summer of Love is now officially underway after failing to enforce their own rules for the past 3 weeks. Columbia has been seized by a group of hate-filled far-left agitators who are now terrorizing the campus. All Jewish students have been told to stay away because it's not safe. And today, all buildings were locked down as school officials warned students and visitors to steer clear of the university following last night's night of violence. Now, we had hammer-wielding rioters decked out in Islamic garb and face coverings, smashing their way into a main academic building, chanting for the total destruction of Israel. We heard from the river to the sea, the annihilation of Israel, over and over again. Now, these criminals then proceeded to vandalize the building and unfurl a giant banner with the word Antifada written in blood red. As a reminder, if you don't know the term Antifada, that represents a violent holy war against the Jewish people. Meanwhile, as the chaos unfolded, 3 facility workers were held against their will until early this morning. After one janitor was finally allowed to leave, he reportedly said, quote, "They held me hostage." Now, today, the rioters occupying Hamilton Hall at Columbia demanded food, water, and other, quote, humanitarian assistance. One individual had this exchange with Fox and Friends host, our buddy Lawrence Jones. Here's LJ.
How do you feel about them taking over the building right now?
I think that their cause is a just cause, and I hope that the administration really hears their demands. I think they're just demands.
Do you feel like it was right to hold 3 of the janitor workers hostage inside of the building?
I think that's a really false narrative.
That's what the janitors are saying, that they weren't allowed to leave.
I think that that's a really false narrative.
Even if the janitors are saying that, you're saying that that's not true.
I think that it's a really false narrative that the students took anyone hostage.
How do you feel about some of the Jewish students saying that they don't feel safe here on campus?
I think that this is also a really false narrative that's being promoted.
Do you think October 7th and the attack that happened is a false narrative? Do you believe that some of the women were raped?
My colleague just came back.
So this is what happened.
Can you get out of my face, please?
Yeah, don't worry, you'll probably be paying through Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program for that girl's education. She's been educated out of any common sense she might have been born with and denying simple, undeniable truths. We have violent threats, vandalism, anti-Semitism, praise for Hamas, praise for the barbaric terrorist attack on October 7th, the worst in Israel's history. This is not a peaceful anti-war protest. It is a bigoted pro-terrorism riot just a short distance away from ground zero. And God forbid you use the wrong pronoun at a lot of universities like Columbia or commit some other kind of microaggression. But calls for an entire country's annihilation, a Holocaust in our time, support for what was rape and torture and murder and hostage-taking carried out by Hamas because, quote, resistance is justified by any means necessary. Well, apparently that's all okay at Columbia. The school's president has done little to quell this riot for weeks, allowing these so-called protesters pretty much to do whatever they want. The inmates tonight at Columbia are running the asylum. And as for Joe Biden, he's in Delaware, hiding from the public. Americans are getting physically blocked from attending class, all because of their Jewish faith or political beliefs. And Joe Biden is nowhere to be found. Your gutless President Joe instead has his own State Department officially attacking the state of Israel for daring to fight back against the barbaric terrorists that attacked Israel, while Joe's been pressuring Israel to abandon their plans to win their war against radical Islamic terrorists and defeat the people that attack them. Here in the U.S., bigots, racists, terrorist sympathizers roam the corridors of dozens of American universities calling for intifada. And Joe Biden doesn't seem to care. He wants their vote. At VCU in Richmond, Virginia, police were pelted with giant water bottles and other projectiles. And don't worry, they'll be calling it mostly peaceful any day now. And Kamala Harris will tweet out a bail fund, I'm sure, for anybody arrested. And Joe Biden, he remains silent. He wants their votes. At the University of Washington, one Jewish student told the local news, quote, "It is very visceral feeling in me when someone tells me to go back to the gas chambers." And Joe Biden says nothing. At UCLA, a suspected, quote, Zionist wearing a Star of David necklace forced off the sidewalk by racist students. The pro-Palestinian rioters said that Zionist Jews are not allowed to use the sidewalk at their own school. And Joe Biden cowers in fear. Your gutless president, pathetically afraid to do anything that might cost him a few votes from his radical base. He was shocked and scared to death after what happened in Michigan. And what happened in Michigan is, let's see, over 100,000 uncommitted Democratic presidential primary voters, 18.9% of the Democratic Party base in that state, that swing state, over 50,000 people uncommitted in Wisconsin, over 40,000 uncommitted in Pennsylvania. And even, by the way, Joe Biden's afraid to use his Justice Department to enforce the Civil Rights Act and ensure that no American is ever blocked from going to the school on the basis of religion or race. Now, this is moral cowardice that we have never seen before. Old Joe talked a big game on the campaign trail about Charlottesville. But as president, when it really matters, you're frail, you're weak, your cognitively struggling commander-in-chief is completely missing in action today. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.